So Jackie, where are you from?
I'm from a town called Fayetteville, Tennessee.
Oh, the big city?
The big city,
Yeah.
yes. Actually a very small town, but I really enjoyed living there. I lived there most of my life. Moved off for several years after college, but I really like it. We moved back before my son was born, and I've enjoyed living there.
Part of the story you've shared with me, which is a big part of your story,
Yeah.
is really your weight loss journey.
Yeah.
So Jackie, what is the highest weight that you got to?
I know I was at least 500 pounds because that's where my scale started. So at least 500, so probably a little over it because it took me a couple of weeks to see that number, 500, pop up. So I started at least 500.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of people who just don't understand, how do you get to 500 pounds? And, so for you,
Yeah.
Jackie, how did that happen? How did you get to over 500 pounds?
It doesn't happen overnight. It's a lifetime of choosing bad foods, choosing comfort through my foods instead of God that I should have always been choosing for my comfort. So it just happened. It started for me actually in an early childhood. My mother and father and sister and I were in a car accident, and my mother was killed by a drunk driver. She'd leaned over to protect me during an accident, and she died from her injuries. And my sister was 5 and I was 2. And our father, that he had worked, and the mother took care of us and was in a new situation. And he remarried shortly after my mom died, and she was very young. She was 18, and I think she wasn't sure what to do. She hadn't even really been around children that much, and she dug back out a box that had bottles in it, and she filled back up my bottle, and I was comforted with food. And I think that was what I learned to turn to, even at that very young age. I sought comfort through food, and as you got into adulthood, when we were broken children, we become broken adults.
Yeah.
And I carried that into my marriage. Difficult marriage, a horrible divorce, to say the least. And if there is such a thing as a normal marriage, I can promise you mine was about the furthest thing from it. But I thought I was happy up until that time, but I kept finding food what I was turning to through the whole thing. And one horrible night during the divorce, or really before the divorce started, I'd confronted my ex-husband about what was going on. And he had I guess you'd say, a nervous breakdown that night, and some pretty horrible things happened. And when we don't talk about things like that happen to us, our secrets become our prison.
Mm-hmm.
And I was living in a pretty rough prison at the time.
I can imagine, did that just make the comfort from food just worse during that time?
It made it 10 times worse, because I'd wake up from that nightmare and I was too afraid to go back to sleep. I couldn't go back to sleep.
Yeah.
So I would go to the cabinet and turn to food. And that 350-pound person at the time quickly became that 500-pound person over the next 2 years. Because I ate. That was how I felt good. It was the only thing that made me feel okay, was food.
Yeah.
So I would turn to that food.
And that was 2 years, really. I mean,
Yeah,
from
it was over a
350
2-year period.
pounds.
Yeah.
And that was, sounds like probably one of the hardest periods in your life.
Oh, it was, because I never told anybody about what happened that night. And we were in a small town. Everyone knew all the other things that had happened with my ex-husband, I know what it feels like to stand in line, a checkout line, and hearing people talk about the situation you're going through.
Right.
You see, it was their laughter, but it was our pain. It was it was the hardest thing my son and I had ever been through. But that's just human nature for people, when they don't really know about a situation, or you'd hear them saying something that they had heard had happened, and you're like, that didn't happen. But you just have to deal with it,
Yeah.
And so I just
ate.
ate.
And I was going to say, how you were dealing with it was with food. And really, I feel like although your story is your personal story, you're really telling the story of a lot of people who have past experiences and hurt and brokenness and turning to food just to make themselves feel better.
Right.
Yeah, so it's really, at that moment you may think, oh, it's just me, but it's really not.
Yeah.
It's so many people who are suffering in silence, like you were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jackie, what was the breaking point? Because you could have just kept going.
Yeah.
From 500 pounds on.
Yeah.
But what was your breaking point?
You know, I'd been walking with God. I truly came back to God for about a year's spell. And then I knew I needed to lose the weight. But I didn't ask God to help me with my weight at first. And, you know, He had helped me find forgiveness on so many levels. He'd helped me do so many other things. And why I didn't ask Him at first, I really don't know. I think I look back now, and I think it was because I was ashamed and embarrassed. And this was that sin I'd done to myself. And so I didn't feel right asking God to help me. So I did the same thing that I'd done over and over and over again. That yo-yo diet of gung-ho, I'm going to lose this weight, I'm going to keep it off this time. And I would, you know, start out and I'd do great for a couple of months. And then a stressful time in life would come and I'd go back to that comfort. And then I'd not only gain back everything I lost, but I'd gain 10 more with it. Same thing happened even now. I was walking with God. I was doing good. My dad's health declined greatly. Some things come out about my ex-husband again, threw stress into the mix. And then I'd probably lost 60 pounds up to that point. I put 40 of it back on.
Wow.
And just it happens before you even realize it.
Yeah.
You know? Because you don't get on the scales when you know you're not doing good.
No,
you only get on the
you
scales
don't
when you're
see,
trying.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't want to see it.
Yeah. No, I didn't want to see that number,
Yeah.
you know. So we had a 4th of July. I've reconnected with a lot of my college friends, and we have a ball together now, all of us. But we'd spent the 4th of July holiday together. And I just recently had a wrist surgery. I've had several surgeries on my arms. And we'd spent the day together, and I just got back, hot 4th of July night, unloading the car, trying to hold everything where it wouldn't be in my hand. And I thought I was still a step away from the sidewalk, and I wasn't. And so I stumbled. Didn't hurt me, but I fell, you know, on the sidewalk. And I was laughing at first, you know, good Lord, done fallen. So I start trying to get up. I couldn't get up. So I thought, oh, this is funny. You know, I can't get up. And I remembered a commercial from about 30 years before of this old lady. I'd fallen and I couldn't get up. And I thought,
remember.
Oh, that's funny. I've fallen and I can't get up. Well, after about 30 minutes, that commercial wasn't so funny anymore.
Yeah.
I really had fallen and I couldn't get up. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I prayed, God, please just help me get up. Please just help me get up, God. He didn't help me get up. Best unanswered prayer I ever had. You know, I literally had to end up calling some of my son's friends to come over and help me. Humiliated, embarrassed. I mean, how, you know, my weight had gotten so out of control that I couldn't get up off the sidewalk. And that night, God and I just had a long talk. I said, okay, God, you've helped me find forgiveness. You've helped me learn to finally love myself a little bit. Now help me with this, God. Will you help me with my weight? And it was like he was almost saying, I always wanted to help you with it, Jackie.
Yeah.
You just never asked.
So what happened after that? You had a long talk with God. He said,
Had a long
I'm
talk
in.
with God.
Are
He
you
said, I'm
in?
And I'm telling you, it was on from that point on. Well, I've been on the most incredible journey of healing. That it can only be a story that God writes, because I could never write this on my own. You know, there were so many days I felt like I was walking 2 steps behind him instead of beside him. But he would always, like, it would look back and remind me, just keep your eyes focused on me.
Yeah.
You can't do this alone, but you can do it with me, Jackie. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do this. We can do it together. And it's 1 pound at a time, 1 day at a time. But it's a daily choice I had to make. Nobody was going to do the work for me.
Right.
Now, I think a lot of times, you know, God had to tap me on the shoulder and say, here's your shovel. I think you left it back there. You need to go get it. Because he wasn't going to do it for me. Now, he was going to walk beside me and be my strength.
Yes.
But I had to do the work. And was it hard? You betcha. Hardest thing I've ever done.
But I just love that you can speak to it from experience, because you had tried dieting before.
Oh, thousands of yo-yo diets.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I had it down, you know. But I would start at it on my strength. And that would last for about 60 days. And I'd do pretty good for about 60 days. But like I said, you let a stressful bump in the road come, and you're going to go back to your old habits. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, in Celebrate Recovery, I help lead a Celebrate Recovery program. The definition of insanity is doing the same exact thing over and over again but expecting a different end result, you know. I'd done the same thing over and over and over again. And every time I thought I was going to have a successful ending. Never did.
What does that look like when, let's say, you've lost 100 pounds, okay? So if your starting weight was a little over 500 and now you're at 400, what does that feel like, good and bad? Because I know it could still be a struggle.
Sure. I mean, I'm still, 200 pounds more than most people would even think about being. So I'm thinking, whew, okay, I've got 100 of it down now. I've only got, 225 to go. I can do this. Woo!
Yeah.
That's a struggle.
Yeah.
But that's when my faith really kicked into action. Okay. That's what drew me closer to God, because I couldn't see a way. My eyes could not see a way to do this.
No.
But God said, I am the way, Jackie.
Yeah.
I was always the way. And you can do this with me. You can't do it without me, but you can do it with me.
And it's just so beautiful to hear you say that, because as a nutritionist, I experience that all the time, where I see my brothers and sisters in Christ living this part of their life, walking with the Lord and asking Him to help in their career, in their families, in their parenting, in their marriage. But the weight is just over here, almost like it's just a different part of their life. And it's true what you said. It's typically not because we don't want the Lord to help us in that area, but we have shame around it and guilt. And we feel like that's our sin. And we don't, we just don't feel like, we even want to ask out of embarrassment. But He's our great God. Our Father wants to take care of every area of our life.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please click here to watch more videos that will help you live a peaceful and healthy life. You may also want to subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so be sure to turn on the notification bell so you're notified when I post something new. If you want to learn more about how to live the best, healthiest, and most fulfilling life available to you, go to IsabelDPrice.com today. I'll see you soon.